This episode of the Popture podcast was brought to you by our Patreon. If you want to tell us which films we should watch, listen to up to 2 extra exclusive podcasts a month, or give us something to discuss in our new post-credit scenes at the end of each episode, then please consider joining the cult and donating at www.patreon.com/cultpopture. Everybody, and welcome to the Popture podcast. My name is AJ, and as usual, I'm joined by Richard, or I'm joining Richard, I should say, on this episode.
I'm the leader. I'm clearly the one who wears the pants on this podcast. Although, ironically, are you wearing pants right now?
I'm wearing shorts.
I'm just wearing underwear. So, you are, in fact, wearing the pants.
There you go. Richard, these are dark days. These are scary times.
It feels weird to be doing our dumb little podcast in the midst of everything that's going on in on this crazy little ball of water that we like to call Earth.
Yeah, and the last 2 episodes we've sort of made rather flippant jokes about coronavirus and COVID-19. Why has it got 2 names? That sounds like the start of a bad stand-up comedian bit.
Do you want to actually know the answer, or are you riffing?
They wouldn't be able to perform to anyone because crowds of over 100 are cancelled. Why?
So coronavirus is the type of virus. So SARS was a coronavirus. MERS was a coronavirus. The actual thing is COVID-19. It's like cancer and breast cancer.
Right. Well, I just wanted to say that I know we made jokes on the last couple episodes about it, and I don't think making jokes about it at this stage is completely out of the question. But if in 3 weeks it's real fucking serious, I just want to preemptively apologize for making jokes about it in previous episodes.
And if it's not too serious, then keep coming back to the Popture podcast for all your weekly making fun of a very serious situation that is affecting thousands of people internationally.
Yeah, we're in the middle of a very pointless and doomed run through the James Bond series every 2 weeks here on the Popture podcast for Film Franchise Fortnights. And so because we couldn't give our patrons over at patreon.com/cultpopture the ability to choose every second franchise we cover because we were doing James Bond in so many different segments, we were like, okay, you guys can choose our in-between episodes, our off weeks as we call them. And so this is our second Patreon suggested off week. Yes?
Yes. So, and I'm very much like last off week where you just listed movies you watched. I also don't really know what we're doing for this episode. So enlighten me, Richard. You've done all the work. So allow me to ride your coattails for the next hour or so. Yeah, because 2 weeks ago, as I so proudly proclaimed, I was very busy show running a TV show. That is no longer happening. So I was able to put a bit more effort into this week's podcast, but still very little effort. Yeah, so it is postponed, though, my show, so that should be happening at some point within the next 12 months.
Which means we can now pour all our love and resource into this podcast.
I paid attention to a James Bond film for the first time today.
There you go.
Okay, so the comment this is coming from is from Jeremy on our Patreon, who said, what should be the Popture code for movie watching slash consumption? E.g., how long after a movie is released are you allowed to talk publicly about spoilers? What kinds of food can be consumed at a cinema during a movie? Should people be allowed to talk during trailers at the cinema? Areas that need rules, and then we can settle on an official Popture ruling. So we opened this up to a broader pop culture, some general life advice kind of things. But we're going to go through some famous heated debates, and as the two biggest boys in the world of
in the
world of pop culture. We're going to give you the official pop culture consumer guidelines. So
consumer guideline, like the etiquette
for consuming pop culture.
Okay, the pop culture etiquette for consuming pop culture.
Yeah. Okay. I think a good place to start is with spoilers. So, Jeremy mentioned in his post, how long are you before you're able to talk about spoilers publicly? So, this is an
age-old debate. That
after a film has been released, my traditional rule of thumb has been the rule of twos. So this is 2 days for an episode of television, 2 weeks for a movie, and then I guess 2 months for a book. After that point, if you haven't seen the scene or consumed the pop culture in question, it's your duty to avoid it, not for everyone else to avoid talking about it around you. So if you're at work or at school and Endgame has just come out, for a 2-week period, everyone who's seen the movie should be checking that everyone around them has seen the movie before they talk about it, and they should be very careful about it. After the 2-week period, anyone who's yet to see it that is avoiding spoilers needs to remove themselves from those conversations.
They need to self-isolate.
For at least 14 days. And then with television now, it's interesting when it gets into television because, and I can't remember if I've said this on the podcast before, I've certainly said it in our personal life that we share, but like, the way we consume television has completely changed because when The Mandalorian came out, you famously proclaimed that you thought it was going to be the next Game of Thrones, and then how we all laughed at you.
I wish we would stop saying I famously did things that I just said to you and another friend.
Well, we're not going to stop. So the reason, like, not only as the season went on did we see that The Mandalorian wasn't hitting those same kind of highs that the Game of Thrones was in its early seasons. And I mean, maybe it will be the next big thing. It ended on a high note, but I feel like television isn't like a communal thing anymore. It's Game of Thrones was kind of the last show to start and continue on for long enough where even in 2019, it was like you come to work the next day, everyone's talking about last night's episode kind of thing. And that's only because it's a relic of the early 2010s when that was what you did. And so now it seems like, I don't know if there ever will be another Game of Thrones where we have to implement this 2-day rule of, did you see last night's episode? Okay, then we won't talk about it publicly, but then a few days later, it's open for business. But so we do have to kind of come up with a new ruling then, because I think that now that television or like prestige television tends to be more towards like the binge model. So it's like, oh, the new season of Stranger Things comes out. And what do you think are the statute of limitations on something like Stranger Things dropping on a Friday night?
I think that in general, I think you're right about Game of Thrones is what kind of carried over this previous etiquette because of the type of show it was. But I think that TV in general is a lot more niche. And Game of Thrones was maybe the last niche show that everyone was watching. Like, nerds were watching Game of Thrones and jocks were watching Game of Thrones, you know? Like,
yeah, because it was like, it came from a time when there was 12 good shows, and so people tended to watch the best one, whereas now there's 100 good shows, and people have their own 4 that they watch.
Yeah, and I honestly, if I rack my brain, I cannot think of a show currently that has captured everyone's attention as much of as Game of Thrones, so that everyone is watching it.
Yeah.
There are shows that deserve that title, but it just hasn't happened, you know? And so what are the rules around spoiling TV shows? I would say they are rules specific to your individual communities, because my coworker isn't going to care if I tell him what happens in the new season of Better Call Saul, while my flatmates who are only on season 2 would care if I told them what happened.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's because it's shows are more niche now and are designed to be that way too. Like there are so many more shows which are about, which are representing niche communities that are watched by those niche communities. And on top of that, what is a spoiler in certain types of TV shows? Like, not every show is going to, like, what's a show that has a real niche audience? What's an example?
Rick and Morty, because you have to be quite intelligent.
Well, Rick and Morty's interesting because I feel like to spoil Rick and Morty, it's to tell people the jokes before they see it. Like in a comedy, the jokes are the spoilers. That's a rule I'm implementing. That's how that translates over to comedy, is that you might not think you're spoiling Rick and Morty by telling me that Rick turns himself into a pickle.
But you actually just ruined one of the all-time great comedic moments.
What you've done, like, technically you haven't told me, like, what happens in the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Which is what would constitute a spoiler, or a certain type of spoiler for movies and for dramas. But, like, in a comedy, the end of the episode is often a lot less, like, the stakes are often a lot less high than what happens within the episode. There are exceptions. I would say something like The Good Place was a very spoilerable show. But again, if someone told me the jokes as well as the plot points in The Good Place, I wouldn't be happy. So
I'd be a very grumpy boy.
Yeah, I think that the 2-day limitation still applies. The 2-day statute of limitation still applies for TV show spoilers within your community of people that watch it.
It's a good rule of thumb, I think.
Yeah, but then you are also able to amend that rule if your community has started watching Mr. Robot for the first time.
Yeah.
Like, you can't then just tell them what happens and be like, oh, it's been out for 2 days. So I think you can't do this with major release movies, but with TV shows, you can set the rules yourself.
Yeah.
Within your own little
it's more about like if an episode is if a TV show like Game of Thrones is coming out week to week, if you have 2 days to watch, maybe you can't watch it live, maybe you're busy the next day, but that, like, on that other day you have to watch it, otherwise it's like, are you actually even caring about it? And like 2 weeks to watch a mainstream movie is plenty of time for someone who genuinely wants to get to the cinema and avoid spoilers. But yeah, I think that the way we discuss TV shows has completely changed. It's no longer, did you see last night's episode? It's, have you seen You on Netflix? I won't spoil it for you, but you should check it out. It's no longer this, like, watch it so we can talk about it. It's, I'm recommending it to you. Maybe you'll watch it. You probably won't, but we can talk about it in a year when we've both seen it, but I'll be a season ahead of you. And so, it doesn't feel as communal anymore. It's not a thing that you go to work and talk to your friends about.
Which is a shame. I do miss that.
Yeah.
I do.
It was got like the theorizing, like something like Lost is like...
Yeah.
That and like Breaking Bad and like coming to work or school the next day and having like everyone be talking about it is like, there's nothing better than that.
Yeah. Now we've just got internet message boards as if they're the same thing.
Oh, God. Okay, so next about spoilers. This comes from Matthew V. Voss on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So this is about what actually constitutes a spoiler. And I know this is like you and I kind of feel strongly about this, but 1, are trailers spoilers? 2, are reviews spoilers? And 3, are general feelings and reactions spoilers because of expectation setting?
All right. Can I go in reverse order of what those questions were? So what was the third one? It was
general feelings and reactions considered spoilers.
Totally depends on the movie. I don't want to know, like, if I'd found out before seeing The Rise of Skywalker that it had 54% on Rotten Tomatoes, I would have been shell-shocked, right? But if you tell me ahead of time that Black Widow has 85% on Rotten Tomatoes, I'm like, yeah, no shit. So it totally depends on
I think it's going to have more than 85 for the record.
Fair enough. Well, it totally just depends on what the stakes are for that blockbuster, I think.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time, I won't go see a movie if it's been reviewed poorly, you know?
Yeah,
So
unless that's the specific reason to see it, like Cats or Dolittle.
Exactly. And so I think that it's I would say it's mostly no. I mostly don't care what if I find out the general reaction to a movie, but as soon as someone starts telling me how much they liked it, I get very cautious.
Yeah, because it's when you know someone's specific taste and they're telling you about it, then you know, like, say, going into Rise of Skywalker, for example, if certain people had told you that hated it or loved it and you knew their opinion of The Last Jedi, that would colour what you thought of it. But, you know, you would then be surprised to watch the film and find out that it's devoid of anything good and that it would be impossible to find any redeeming qualities in it.
Exactly. And with TV, I think it's a double-edged sword, because if say the next episode of Better Call Saul drops in a week, right?
Yeah.
And you see it before me and you're like, have you watched it? And I say, no, I haven't watched it yet. And you're like, oh my God, you have to watch it.
Yeah.
I think that is fine, because that's exciting. But if you go, oh my God, you have to watch it, some crazy shit happens in it, and you start being less vague, then I'm like, hey, whoa.
Because also, even saying, especially over text, saying you have to watch it doesn't mean it's good or bad. It just means I want to talk to you about this.
Yeah. Like, I remember when the Red Wedding episode of Game of Thrones dropped, and I didn't see it for like 3 days. And all I heard was that people were like infuriated by this episode, and that was exciting. That wouldn't happen to me now, because if there's a show I like that much that had a big episode, I would watch it immediately.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a double-edged sword, and I don't know if I have a hard and fast rule for it. I can give you specific movies. I haven't wanted to know what people have thought about it before I've seen it. I know that I felt that way about Avengers Endgame. I felt that way about Rise of Skywalker. I felt that way about Wonder Woman, because Wonder Woman was the first DC movie where it was like,
you were invested
this one
in it.
Could actually be good.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to know if it was good. I would say I care a lot less nowadays. I used to care about
I think
not knowing critical reception a lot more.
For me, especially after Avengers Endgame, where I felt like I put so much effort into like caring about it that it was just too hard for me. And so now I've stopped caring about movies. But in general, I think
as well, if it's a huge release, then I don't want to know you've seen it. I think that's more it, not you specifically.
Yeah.
Like when The Dark Knight Rises came out, right? That was my Return of the Jedi, right?
Yeah.
That was the series, the conclusion to the movie series that meant the most to me in high school. And when it came out, one of my friends who worked at a movie theater told me that they'd watched it the night, like illegally watched it the night before.
They have to test it's not illegal. They have to like test the screening.
Well, this was like, I think there are a lot of restrictions on
who can view those screenings and shit.
Yeah. And they'd all seen it, and I was like, I do not want to talk to you about it.
Yeah,
I do, you know what I mean? Because then
people
it's
don't
like,
get how serious you take it.
Yeah, and because then it's also like the hype that you want to share with me, because you're excited for me seeing it. Our thresholds are different, and imagine if like if you're excited for a movie and someone sees it before like anyone in the world has seen it, and they're lukewarm. Like, that's going to color your experience entirely.
Yeah, 100%.
I remember when the Force Awakens came out, I was tweeting, or I think I was Snapchatting about it, about how excited I was for it. And then a girl I know Snapchatted back saying, "I've seen it already," and I just didn't reply, because I was like, I do not want to be involved. That's your the thing.
And part of me, it comes from like a jealousy thing.
Absolutely.
Well. Like that, that I don't like knowing. Even with you, I don't like when you see a movie before I do. And then you send some like cryptic emojis and that it's the best film ever. And then I go and see it and I go, oh, yeah, it's like a 3 to 4 star movie. And then I see you've given it 3.5 or 4 stars. And I'm like, okay, well, your emojis made it to be a lot better than I thought it was going to be. And then that.
All right, okay. I'll stop using emojis.
Thank you. That's I planted this whole podcast just to tell you that. But so in terms of like trailers and reviews, especially what is it, IGN or Empire, one of them always has like a massive spoiler in their review because it's made for like industry people who are kind of like, you know, aren't reading these to genuinely get a feel for it. They want a breakdown of how the author feels about everything that happens in the film.
The Variety review for The Last Jedi.
It's Variety, not Empire. Thing.
Variety review for The Last Jedi spoiled that Yoda is in it.
Yeah.
For example.
And I'm pretty sure it revealed like Loki's death in Infinity War or something like that, which it like seemed like minor spoilers compared to other things that happened in the film, but still. And as for trailers, I don't avoid trailers, but I tend to just not really watch trailers that much anymore. I go and see movies based on who's in them, being part of a franchise, or like, or word of mouth. And so I think that like trailers do tend to have some spoilery stuff in them, and this is a really tough one where like if someone is avoiding trailers and you mention to them like, oh, like it's cool that Spider-Man's in Civil War, who's in the wrong there because like they're pissed off at you but it's information that's publicly out there. I think once information goes public, and that's not through leaks, that's like through actual promotional material, I think it's kind of like no longer considered a spoiler.
Well, in a perfect world, you would think that whatever information is released by the filmmakers is released, they want you to know this ahead of time. But unfortunately with trailers, this is not always the case.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like a great example of this was, actually one thing we went through recently was with Baby Yoda, that it was kept a secret and it wasn't used as promotional material for like a week or two afterwards, and there was kind of like is it okay to talk about the main appeal of this TV show?
Yeah.
And then once like Disney officially like tweeted about Baby Yoda, then it became like fair game. And I think there was actually quite a bit of restraint from people in the first couple of days after the TV show, which came out, which was good. On the flip side of that, when set photos leaked of Avengers Endgame, that showed them at the battle in New York, and everyone was like, well, we know the movie's going to have time travel in it. And it's like, I saw those photos like a year in advance and had my own theories, but I didn't like that became public knowledge. I wanted to forget about it if I could. But it just became, every theory video said, well, we know it has time travel, so this is how it's going to come into it. So yeah, I would say set leaks definitely are considered spoilers, and that you shouldn't just assume that everyone's seen them. However, trailers are a grey area. Oftentimes, sometimes there'll be trailers that come out and they show the entire movie, and if I see that first, I might message you or message my mates and be like, "Don't watch the trailer for this. Like, it looks really good, but it clearly ruins the entire film."
Yeah.
And so, you can use these guidelines to protect your friends as well. Jump on that grenade of learning a spoiler, but generally, there shouldn't be anything movie ruining for you or spoiling in a way in a movie trailer by design.
And one of the questions is what counts as a spoiler? Is that right?
I kind of added that, but yeah.
Okay, so I read a rule of thumb once that was like anything that isn't in the trailer or anything after the first 20 minutes. But there is a really great example of where that doesn't work, which is something like The Cabin in the Woods, which go watch if you haven't seen it. It's a pretty old movie now. But like the main appeal of that film, you learn within the first couple of minutes,
and
they hit that from the trailers.
The first scene is in the hook of the film.
Yeah, and I would have hated it if someone had spoiled that for me. Like, even though it happens within the first scene, it was still such a big part of enjoying that movie was being surprised by the direction it took.
Yeah, I think you could recommend Cabin in the Woods while hinting at that without specifically giving it away. But I think there's times when I'm recommending a movie to someone and there's like an inciting incident that is kept out of trailers, and sometimes I have to be like, I'm going to spoil this for you, but it's like, this doesn't give anything away, you know?
World's Greatest Dad is a great example of that.
Yeah.
We talked about that on our Spy Kids episode. World's Greatest Dad is a movie made interesting, a movie that makes you want to watch it when you find out what happens halfway through the film. And it's very hard to describe why you should watch that movie without saying what that part is. And I might as well not spoil it because I don't have to.
But generally, I think that's a good rule of thumb as to what constitutes a spoiler. Anything that's not on the trailers and happens after the 20-minute mark can be considered. And especially in a comedy movie, the jokes are the spoilers. Okay, so now we've got a bunch of questions around the actual, the etiquette around actually going to the movies. So... What snacks are okay? Generally, anything sold at the candy bar is okay, or anything similar from the supermarket. You don't want anything that's going to smell is the main thing, I think.
Yeah.
A little bit of rustling, I don't mind. It's part of the ambient noise you get in a movie theater. If someone's doing it the whole fucking movie, I do want to punch their fucking lights out. But yeah, the scent is the main thing.
I'm probably closer to being an annoying person in the cinema for this topic.
Right.
I don't think I have done anything like what you're describing. Well, I mean, I think I've eaten McDonald's in a cinema before. I think I've
sat behind someone eating a rotisserie chicken.
It's weird. I don't know if it would annoy me.
But it's also like when you're sitting behind someone and there's just the smell, and it's like, yeah, chicken smells good, but like, you don't want, someone eating that throughout the whole movie. And if you've got like a rustly packet or something like that, the biggest noise is going to come when you open it. So do that before the movie starts, and then you can generally be pretty quiet. So that would be my main advice.
Yeah.
Rustly packets are okay. A lot of people complain about them, but just open them before the movie starts.
Yeah.
And don't eat anything that's going to smell.
The main thing that annoys me in cinemas is either people talking or people on their cell phones. And I have a fun story from 2012. The year is 2012.
The movie 2012 is at the top of the box office.
I went to see The Lorax with my little sister, and I was sitting. So it was me, my sister, and then like 3 12-year-old boys, and then sitting in front of us was like a mother and her kids to watch the movie. And the 12-year-old boy sitting next to my sister, he was like with a different party. He wasn't with us. He kept like making like sarcastic retorts to the things that would happen in the movie, which is super lame to do even when you're not in a cinema. So there's another rule. Don't talk back to your movie, please. And he was he kept saying like real snide things and really ruining the experience. And a couple of times the mum in front of us like turned around and shushed him, and she'd be like shh, and he'd go shh back at her. And after the third time or so he did it, I leaned across and I said to him, I was 18 at the time, so I'm a big scary teenager, and I said, "You're not funny. You're ruining this for everyone. Shut the hell up." And he didn't make a point. Didn't make a sound for the rest of the movie.
That's great.
And I
love that story.
Very tough.
Yeah, talking during the movie is the worst. Just generally don't do it. After a big reveal, I don't mind a whisper to your friends that's like, "Holy shit," or like, or someone mishears it and goes, "What was that?" Oh, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
and that's it.
The grey area is how bad is the movie? Because I was chatting to you and Rowan all the way through Cats.
Yeah, I did find that kind of annoying, to be honest.
All right, sorry. I guess I'm just I'm a bad cinema going boy.
I just think just be quiet. Like you can whisper, and there's 2 types of whispering. There's the like, "Hey, so what's happening? In this part," and then there's the like, "So what's going on?" When it gets into the top of into the roof of your mouth, that's when it fucking pierces the entire movie theater. And also maybe just pick your moments. If you can tell an action scene is coming up, maybe whisper to your friend under an explosion.
Yeah.
So and then using your phone again, like if you don't have if you've got dark mode on and your brightness isn't down, I don't mind if you check the time or you get an important message and you take it outside. But if you've got your fucking brightness way up and you're pulling it out and you just have it sitting on your lap, that makes you an asshole.
Insanity.
Yeah,
I sat next to a girl when I saw Justice League who I didn't know. And she was constantly checking her phone and texting, and I put my hand up to the side of my face to like block the light, but also try and be like very blatantly like, hey, you're actually obstructing the experience of this very bad movie for me. So please stop. And then eventually she just left the cinema. So I presume she had gone to the wrong movie or something.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing as well, that like,
her friend.
For me, it doesn't matter how bad the movie is. I still want to be able to pay attention to it. So talking to your friends loudly or just pulling out and going on your phone is still like ruining the experience. Even if the movie is terrible, I still want to feel invested in it, you know? Jess does this thing where she'll like put her jersey over her knees, creating a little tent, and then just put her head in that and have her phone inside that. Yeah, and so I mean that's not as distracting. It is very funny though when I look over and she's just been like that for like 5 minutes. So one of the other big things that's a real battle of the ages at the movie theater is sitting in your allocated seats. Now, if it's like 2:00 on a Wednesday, it's not that big a deal. I still, if there's like 10 people in the movie theater, I picked my seats online and you're sitting in them, I will tell you to fuck off. Like, just for the principle of it. Unless you're bigger than me or in some way scary, in which case I will go to some other area of the cinema with my tail between my legs. Use your judgment as well. Like, it's always a risk, no matter what. Like, the general rule of thumb: stick to your allocated seats. Stop being a fuckwit. Like, the reason you want to keep, like, when you go into your non-allocated seats and then you get annoyed that someone's trying to take them from you, it's because they're good seats and this person booked them for that reason. Like, you going, oh, just sit somewhere else because you want to sit there, but it's like they want to sit there as well, but they also have the right to sit there and you don't.
Yeah.
And so I've seen people sit in their non-allocated seats at like an opening night of a Marvel film, and it's like, what the fuck are you thinking? This is obviously going to be sold out or packed. Yeah, so generally you should sit in your allocated seat all the time, and also you should not be afraid to tell someone that when they're sitting in your seat. I'm a big advocate for telling people to get out of your seats. But, I mean, if the movie theater is mostly empty, you should be fine, but don't be an asshole about it.
Yeah, I think we've all done it, and it's just a matter of, you know, owning up if you're called out on it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no reason to be angry at someone for calling you out on it when it's like, you know,
yeah, like if you get angry, you're just proving their point that they're good seats, and that's why they should have them. So yeah, always sit in your allocated seats. If you don't, you're taking a risk, and you need to be prepared to face the consequences when they come. So I covered talking during the movie. Don't do it. A little whisper here and there is fine, but obviously shut up.
All right, there is an exception to go back to, you know, how it's like depends how bad the movie was.
Yeah.
Cats was a bad example. A real good example is a number of years ago. I don't want to say the movie because it was a local film. We went there to a very small boutique cinema in Christchurch to watch this movie. It was me and 5 other friends and one person we didn't know, right?
Yeah.
And the movie was astonishingly bad. Probably the worst film I've seen in a cinema context. And halfway through the movie, the person who wasn't with us got up and left. And as soon as they left, we all just burst out laughing and just heckled the movie for the rest of it.
Yeah, I mean, if were you the only people in the cinema?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
There's something amazing when you're the only person in the cinema, or your group is. And in that case, go for it. You're just in a big lounge of someone's.
Yeah.
Okay, but what about, AJ, talking during the trailers of a movie?
Okay, so 10 years ago, I could understand someone being like, don't talk, I want to watch this trailer. But I don't remember the last time I saw a movie trailer at the movies for a movie I was interested in that I hadn't already seen online. Like trailer culture completely changed.
Yeah.
So,
sure.
and also, going back to the spoilers thing, there are sometimes, you'll find out about like this famously spoilerific trailer, and if that comes on while you're already sitting in your seat at the cinema, I'm probably going to talk over that so that I don't, or, make some kind of noise. I'll block my ears and close my eyes if I have to.
Run out of the theater screaming like you did that one time.
Yeah. Yeah, when the trailer for Edge of 17 came on. And I was glad I did.
Famously spoilerific.
It was. It gave the wrong idea of what the movie was about. I went into Edge of 17 having no idea what the movie was about. And if I'd seen that trailer, I would have thought it was about a girl who sends a dirty text message and spends the whole movie trying to retrieve the phone back, which it is not about.
If you want to be entertained during the trailers, I often just go on my phone because I'm half paying attention to them anyway. Most of the time I've seen them at least once because they play the same trailer for fucking months. And if it's something, like talking during the trailer, it's one of those things like if you shush me for talking during a trailer, you're a loser. But also like if you're talking real loud during the trailers, you're also a loser. There's like a fine line in between it. Like it's not fair to get pissed off at people. As soon as the movie starts and they're still talking, tell them to shut the fuck up.
Yeah. But how loud are trailers though? Trailers are louder, or at least more consistently loud than a movie. So I'm not going to hear someone talking during a trailer.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean I think I've been told. Have I been told to shush to the trailer? I don't think so. But I've heard shushing happening during the trailers and laughed. Because it is like, even if you miss the trailer because the person next to you is talking, it's not that hard to look it up when you get home. So I'd say you can talk during the trailers, but again, just don't be an asshole. Like that, most of these rules are like, just don't be a dickhead. Because you can, if you're making a scene or you're like swearing loudly and you're at a kid's movie, those are the things you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
So now we've got a few fan submitted questions from Scott Corey, who commented these on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Once the credits start rolling for a film, how long should you sit in silence before discussing the film you just saw? This all depends, I think, on the ending of the film. Something like, to use an example, on Her Majesty's Secret Service, how that ends with spoilers for a fucking 50-year-old film. But it ends with James Bond's wife dying, and it's a very silent moment, and then the credits just start rolling. That you would want to let soak in for a while. Something like Rise of Skywalker, I felt comfortable turning to you immediately and saying, was it just me, or was that unbelievably bad?
When Doolittle finished, I turned to the person I went to see it with and very loudly, in a relatively no, I wouldn't say full, but there were people there. I said to him, "Yo, that was the worst movie I have seen in years." I had to proclaim it. I had to let other people know.
Yeah, I think just read the room is really, I guess, would be the ruling.
Generally, as soon as credits start rolling, I'll pull out my phone. I don't really like discussing the movie in depth until I'm out of the cinema. Like, while I'm still there, I'll be like, "What'd you think?" "Oh, it was cool. Yeah. Or it was bad."
I would say that the general, if we're going to put a ruling on it, I would say the rule of thumb to stick to would be once they turn into just scrolling credits, then you can start talking.
Also, if you agree, that's cool. If you disagree, take it outside, because that has the potential to get quite loud and boisterous. And
what do you mean?
Like, if we go see a movie together and it finishes and I'm like, "What'd you think?" And you're like, "I hated it." And I'm like, "Oh, I loved it."
I thought it was better than The Force Awakens.
Then we should take it out of the cinema.
Yeah. Rise of Skywalker was a special case, though. But I think because most credits these days will have a few title cards come up or some kind of little animation. And generally, you want to let people stew in that a little bit because that will tend to continue the mood of the final shot through for another minute or two. And you want to let that, because that's kind of the film giving you that time to process it. And then when it just turns into white text scrolling up on a black screen, that's when you can turn to your friends, I think.
And if it's a Marvel movie, you are free to let leaving patrons know, hey, there's another post-credit scene, which I've done before as
well. So, and if you're in a cinema, should you discuss the film in the theatre at all, or wait till you're at least in the foyer?
This is
to avoid annoying others nearby who might prefer to process what they just saw in silence.
How many? I feel like I don't see enough heavy movies that this is going to be as big of a deal as this comic makes it sound like it will be.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, yeah, I would say stick to the rule of that we just said of wait till those credits start rolling, because that you can talk over a little bit, and I think people aren't going to get pissed off. But sometimes if there's like a fun animation or something like that that has the first part, you people would generally want to concentrate on that. But then I think do initial thoughts in the cinema, walk to your car in silence, and then talk about it.
Yeah.
I would hate to think that any listeners of our podcast would be walking into the foyer past people waiting in line for tickets and discussing spoilers of a film.
Yeah.
That disgusts me.
It sounds like one of our listeners has done that, and you're not wanting to single them out.
I'm sure they have, but and I know the fucking listener it would be as well. But yeah, no, this isn't based on anything. It's just something that I know if I worked in a movie theater, I would be terrified of. But working at a movie theater day one when Endgame comes out, being an usher and having to have people walk past you discussing spoilers, that would terrify me.
Yeah, I'd never do it.
Yeah, and so I think discuss in the cinema when the credits are rolling, and that's when you do like, holy shit, I can't believe X died, or I can't whatever. You can get your big general holy shit moments out. But then the in-depth discussion. This is presuming you do, which I think if you listen to the podcast, you probably like to have those discussions. Like, I remember it occurring to me once that like some people I'd find just seeing a film and then they just go home. And it's like, no, you have to dissect it. But you want to do the real dissection in the car or when you know that you're not going to be around people that could overhear you.
And there is a flip side of this as well, which is when I went to see Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, I was lining up in a pretty big line to buy popcorn or something, and there were these two girls behind me, and they were talking about Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, and one of them was like, "Oh my god, I heard something," and she was like, "Oh, just tell me," and she's like, "I heard that Chris Pratt dies in it," and look, if I'd cared enough. I didn't really care. I didn't think I was going to enjoy Fallen Kingdom that much. And I also knew that they wouldn't kill off Chris Pratt because he's a bankable star and he's carrying that franchise. But I nearly turned around to them and was like, hey, maybe don't discuss this kind of stuff in line at the movies. It blew my mind.
Yeah, where you know that the people surrounding you have not seen the film.
Yeah, and they would have said, "Oh, it's just a theory," or "It's just I don't know for sure." And it's like it doesn't matter because another type of spoiler is putting something in my mind, and then it depends how specific the spoiler is, right? Because I mean, I read a joke, what ended up being a joke spoiler before Infinity War that said Tony Stark dies, and it's like, well, that's broad enough that. That's obvious. The obvious. What am I trying to say?
Yeah, someone could just write that.
Yeah, someone could guess that. But if before I saw The Last Jedi, someone was like, Snoke dies or Kylo kills Snoke, I would have been like, holy shit, you've ruined the movie for me. That's like, because it's depending how specific it is. And just saying, oh my god, I heard main character dies is like, well,
Yeah.
Well done. You've worked out one of a finite amount of things that could happen to constitute a twist.
Yeah, something like to use Infinity War as an example, spoilers for Infinity War, say Red Skull returning would be the if you read that you'd be like, well fuck, like this is obviously true.
Yeah.
Like no one would just write that. But like Cap dies and Iron Man dies, I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's from Scott as well. Also, I'm someone who likes to watch / listen to the entirety of end credits for reasons other than waiting for post-credit scenes. I don't care if my viewing companions leave the cinema earlier than me, but is it okay for me to keep watching till the end if they're hanging out in the foyer waiting for me? I mean, come on, people. The movie hasn't even properly finished yet. And a crowded cinema... Oh, sorry, there's the next question. And the movie hasn't even properly finished yet.
An interesting thing to do. Why do you stay, Scott? Is it so that you can honor the filmmakers and see everyone who was in it? Which is fine. I'm not chewing you out.
Well, I mean, judging from his previous comments, we know Scott likes to sit in silence, taking in what and maybe it takes him 10 to 15 minutes sometimes.
I mean, whatever.
I think, anyone who thinks that who judges you for doing that is a dick. If they're just waiting out in the foyer, that's fine. You're not hurting anyone by waiting.
Yeah.
I think it's fine for you to do that. It's not fine for people to judge you for doing that, even if it is a little unorthodox. So, and then last question. In a crowded cinema, what are the rules around who gets to use the armrest, both for resting their arms and for using the cup holder?
Pass to the right?
Yeah, generally the seat on the right. Because if you look at the end of the aisle, only one end will have a cup holder. And so if it's on the right or the left, everyone in that row gets the right or the left.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
And then if you're sitting on the aisle, which I like to do, you get. So, another film going question. This is from Matthew V. Voss on Instagram. Should you go to the bathroom during action sequences or exposition / dialogue?
Just don't go to the bathroom. That's
my ruling as well.
I nearly busted my bladder after Spider-Man Homecoming because I didn't go to the bathroom and really needed to. This is just a prepare thing, and there's no rule because it only affects you, really. But it's like, prepare ahead of time. I have left to go to the bathroom in exactly one movie. That movie was Delivery Man, which is a Vince Vaughn movie that I actually was really enjoying, but I really needed to pee. Yeah,
the only film I've gone to the toilet during in the last 10, 15 years was Suicide Squad.
Nice.
And you know what? I hoped I had diarrhea because to keep me out of that cinema. No, that's not true. I would never wish diarrhea upon anyone. Least of all myself. Yeah, I think don't go to the bathroom if you have to. There's actually an app called, you can look it up, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like, when should I pee? And so it's like user submitted. And so when you go to the movies, if you know that you have a chronically small bladder and always have to pee during a film, you like put into the app what film you're going to see, and it's user submitted, and people will tell you. You put it in your pocket, your phone will vibrate when is a good time to go to the toilet. And it says like, then you go to the toilet and it will tell you, you've got 2 minutes. This is all that you're missing, kind of thing.
So look, I remember there was one for Endgame was like, when Hawkeye wakes up in water, go pee then.
Yeah, you've got like, there's about an hour until the movie ends, and here's what you're missing, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there was like when Thor explains the ether, there's like a 2.5 minute just silly scene.
That's why it's in the film.
Yeah. But yeah, so official ruling: don't go to the toilet.
Pee in the cinema.
Yeah, pee your pants. I know. We've all contemplated peeing in our Coke bottle at one point.
Absolutely.
Christopher Garrett Brown asks, is it okay to eat popcorn during quiet parts when people near you can definitely hear you? Official ruling, how loud is you fucking eating popcorn?
Yeah, it's not very loud, is it?
Yeah, like, unless you chew with your mouth wide open, or you're generally like,
well, the rule
maybe
of
you
thumb
shouldn't
is
eat popcorn if this is
the rule of thumb is that you sound louder to yourself than you do to anyone else.
Exactly. Think about how many times you've been annoyed by someone near you eating popcorn. It's probably not that many times. Unless not only are you a super loud eater, but you also have very sensitive hearing.
Yeah. Richard, don't drink soda before midday. That's one of my rules. Is that pop culture related?
Really? See, I don't drink soda after midday.
Oh. We can
or before.
We will never be friends.
I only drink soda at precisely midday. As soon as it hit 12:01, I have just spit out whatever's left in my mouth.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, so
just rule, not even pop culture related, just rules for living your life.
Yeah, well, there are a couple. We did get people asking some, but I don't know whether we'll answer them or not.
Okay.
So, how many times are you allowed to recommend the same TV show to the same person before you're the dick?
I don't know if it's a situation of being the dick, though. I think if you are recommending a show to someone enough, if you know someone and see someone frequently enough that you're continually recommending a show to them and they refuse to go watch it, I think it just becomes a joke at that point. You'd have to have a pretty tumultuous friendship to be like, God damn it, stop telling me to watch that show. You know?
Okay. So you think it's dependent on friendship?
Yeah. It's how good of a friend are you?
Yeah. Okay. This is an interesting one. Matthew V. Voss on Instagram. Is it acceptable to say, I just want to see a good movie. I don't care if a man or a woman directed it?
No. It is not acceptable to say that. But it is acceptable to want to see a good movie.
Yeah.
Regardless. If you're saying I don't care who directed it, it feels like it's like you're making a point out of it, which is the very thing you're trying not to do.
Yeah, exactly. And it's this is the calling card of people who don't want women to get as many jobs in the industry because they just want the best person for the job. They don't care.
Yeah.
And it's like...
Which is how New Zealand's government ran for a long time. We're extra hyper-attuned to it, I guess.
I would say it's just generally not acceptable to say because... I understand the sentiment if it is coming from a genuine place, but that particular way of phrasing it has been the sexists and racists have taken ownership of it, and maybe we need to take it back.
Well, I think as well, like there was a great post on Reddit last year that was about someone posted on Reddit is essentially asking, is like virtue signaling ruining blockbuster films? Like is the need to put strong female characters or gay characters in the movies getting in the way of just genuine storytelling? And the post was made neutrally, but just the fact that they were asking it roused suspicion. And there was a reply from a guy who was like, I used to think this, but then I took my little sister to see Avengers Endgame. And I took my little sister to see Captain Marvel. And I thought Captain Marvel was a pretty run-of-the-mill, average Marvel movie. I came out and she fucking loved it. Like, she was so enamored with this movie because she saw herself in Captain Marvel, which, as a white man, this guy always saw himself in movies, and it wasn't hard. And he said that he took her to see Avengers Endgame, and when he did, when the famous moment in Avengers Endgame where all the female superheroes stand up and have a little scene together, and how that was very intentional in the scene. And we've talked a little bit about how for us, if just from a storytelling point of view, it's a little bit, it could be reworked so that you achieve the same message being sent, but it makes a little more sense in the story. And then after the movie, he asked her specifically what she thought of that moment, and she thought it was awesome. So it's very easy to especially for people like you and me, Richard, as white dudes, to be like, this movie's fine, it doesn't need a gay character, it doesn't need a female character. But that's because every second movie, probably more than that,
like
it's
never been a problem for me growing up to not imagine myself as my favorite main character. And I mean, even like seeing something like Spider-Man felt like representation for like this bullied kind of nerdy kid who had the chance. And so it's like to see even if fucking every hero pre 2010 it was a straight white man, and I can be like, fuck yeah, I'd love to be Iron Man. To be able to be to even have that specific representation, like it felt like in Spider-Man, was like it's a special feeling when you really feel that connection to it. And so everyone should be allowed to have that. And like for instance, the moment in Endgame you kind of talked about, like it maybe felt like the first draft of the idea, and it's like it's a great idea for a scene, it maybe could have worked better. But if there's millions of little girls out there who become interested in superheroes or like feel a sense of empowerment, then you can sit through something that you don't like for 15 seconds.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'd also say, and broader this topic, which is a topic that I feel like I'm very, very passionate about, and have shown that in Cult Popture, I think, I would hope. Like, it's important to, when you've got a problem with something in a movie, where it's related to representing someone who isn't like you, and I'm mainly talking to other straight white dudes, I practice taking a step back and thinking about it, and maybe the world doesn't need to hear my opinion on it if I have an opinion. Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, it's like one of the most important things I think I realize as a person who talks about movies often is sometimes the world doesn't need to hear my opinion on a specific thing if it's important to someone else, you know? So, yeah.
So to answer the question, is it acceptable to say that? I would say no, because you just sound like a dick. Like, because not only, like, people who say that are going for like a holier than thou kind of thing, like the enlightened centrist kind of thing, where it's like, I don't care about the politics of it, I just want to see a good movie. But it's like, by bringing up the politics of it, you inherently are showing that you do care about it.
Yeah, because centrism inherently sides with the more powerful, right?
Yeah.
Because you're going, I don't think things need to change, which is often what the more powerful side are saying as well.
Yeah, not that, the sexists are more powerful.
No, but any kind of oppressive regime, I guess. if there is a movement to try and change something oppressive, and there are, and you see it in fucking politics all the time, and it's like there are people being like, I'm happy where I'm at, and I used to be like this. I used to be very centrist. I now see that what I'm basically saying is it doesn't need to change, or I don't care if it changes, and therefore I won't do anything to help it change, and therefore I am siding with the oppressor, I guess.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we've got a few music-related ones. We don't talk about music very often on the Cult Popture podcast, and maybe that's something you'd like us to change. Have a look next week next time we ask for suggestions for the off weeks. Maybe you want to hear us talk about music. So, what's the ratio of good songs to bad songs on an album for you to still like the album?
Oh, man. There's a reason I don't talk about music much on the podcast, because I never think about it. I would say that you field this one, because I just don't really listen to music that often.
Well, I mean, it's up to you. Like, you can hate half of the songs on an album and love the other half and still say that you love it, and people can't, people are going to try and call you a fake fan, but you're not. You're just as entitled to say that you like that album as anyone else. obviously, the rule of thumb would be you have to like more than half of it and probably not hate any of it. But there is something really special when you find an album that has like all killer, no filler, like every single song you absolutely love. You never skip any of them. And for most people, that's like, you only have one or two albums in your life that you feel that strongly about. Yeah. So that would be when you love an album, it's one of your favorite of all time. But I think, you can have bad songs or songs you don't like as much and still say that you like an album.
Yeah. Nice.
How many songs by a particular band do you have to like in order to justify paying to see them in concert? This is entirely dependent on you. Yeah. Like, can you afford to see it's how much does the money mean to you?
Again,
I've gone to concerts where I don't really like the artist, but I've been able to afford it and it's been a present to someone else. And I've gone and I've had a great time. There's also artists where you might not necessarily like or love any of their music, but they're like, they're going to be a great performance. Like things like I've seen like Katy Perry and Demi Lovato and stuff like that. And it's like, I don't necessarily love all of their music, but like, fuck, they put on an amazing show. And it all depends on how much a ticket price means to you.
Yeah, I think I need to change my attitude for concerts. I remember when Coldplay came to New Zealand and a bunch of my friends went. I was like, do you even like Coldplay that much? And they're like, oh, not really, but it's Coldplay. And I feel like I need to start seeing concerts as how I see movies. Because there are extraordinarily few concerts that I will pay to go see. Like, I've actively not gone to concerts of artists that I actually really like. I've missed seeing James Blunt in concert a good few times.
He's coming back, mate.
And I really like James Blunt. But
and he put on a great show. I went to go see it.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. But it's just not something I ever think about. I go to gigs for my friends who have bands.
Yeah, see, I guess on the flip side of that, I go to a shit ton of concerts. And so I think I've probably ticked off almost, apart from like Busted, who just never tour anywhere outside of the UK. I've ticked off like every band on my bucket list, some multiple times.
I won't even go see my second favorite band. I was invited to go see the Presets in Auckland, and they ended up cancelling. And the Presets are probably, I don't know if they're my second favorite, but top 5, top 10 bands. And when they got cancelled, I was actually quite relieved because I was like, oh, cool, now I don't have to give a weekend away to going up to Auckland and going to a festival and with a bunch of other music I probably won't be into, and then hearing them live when I haven't even really been into them for a while. Whereas my favourite band I've been able to see once when they went to Australia. And so,
who's your favourite band?
Me Without You. Thank you. I was able to see them in Australia, and that was a very special moment for me. And I was just like, yep. And that just felt like a gig. Like that wasn't in a stadium. They're not a big band, so it's yeah.
See, I'm very much on the like, just go. Concerts are amazing. I love them.
You get coronavirus there.
Yeah, not right now. If you're at a concert with seated tickets, are you allowed to stand? It really pisses me off when people stand up. Like, maybe one or two songs or the encore, but like, I remember the first time I saw Arctic Monkeys, everyone stood up, and I was like, for fuck's sake. Like, if you stand the entire concert, like, I'm going to get pissed off at you. You don't know why the people around you have seated tickets. Like, maybe you just couldn't afford standing, or standing it's sold out and you like standing at concerts. You kind of just have to bite the bullet because maybe the person around behind you is elderly and can't actually stand up for that long and things like that, So I think if you're in seated, you should generally stay seated for the majority of the concert. But of course, when someone in front of you stands up, you have to stand up, and then so on and so on. And then at some point, someone just has to become the asshole in front of the people that can't stand up or won't stand up. So everyone should stick to seating.
Nice.
Cell phones at concerts. This is another one that a lot of people get really fired up about. It doesn't bother me that much. Like,
I just think as a person who works in videography, it's like it just looks fucking bad and sounds bad. Like it's not achieving.
it's getting better though. Like, I took some videos at Carly Rae Jepsen, and they look and sound incredible.
Well, all right.
And so like the days are gone of like getting sent a Snapchat of someone at a concert and you can't tell who they're seeing or what song is playing. Now you can actually like get 4K footage of the person on stage and be able to hear it pretty well.
Here's my holistic answer to that.
Yeah.
When I went to see Me Without You in Australia, I deliberately did not take my phone out of my pocket during the music part. Like I met them and I took photos of them and stuff like that. But during the actual show, I never took my phone out of my pocket because as much as I wanted to, I don't know, maybe take photos or have some memories, I was overwhelmed with a desire to actually take it really seriously and live in it and drink it in. So when I see people doing videos on their phones at concerts, I'm almost more like, dude, just live in it. Like, just be part of it. You'll.
That's interesting because to me, that's such like a boomer approach that it's one of these things like, like, don't have your phone out the whole time, you douchebag. But I don't like if you want to pull out your phone and record the chorus of your favorite song, so that you can remember this moment. Fine. Like, who cares? You're not having a phone, like a tiny little phone screen in front of me for 30 to 90 seconds isn't going to ruin the concert. I'm not even going to remember it, But if that helps you have a keepsake, then that's fine. And also the whole like, cell phone should be banned at concerts. Like, looking at going to a stadium concert or like in a big arena, and when a slow song comes on and everyone has their cell phone light out, that is like the most fucking beautiful thing you can see. And so,
I don't know what I'm talking about. I do.
Yeah, I support like cell phones being allowed to be on you at a concert. And again, it depends on the concert. Like, and where you're sitting and stuff like that. Like, seeing someone that you don't really care that much about, but you like, some of their songs and you're sitting way at the back. Maybe you just want to like put your feet up, go on your phone and just kind of half listen to the concert. And that's your prerogative, but as long as you're not ruining it for anyone else. And I think that's the main thing is like when you start to have your phone out the entire time and you're being really conscious, you're not moving with the crowd because you're focused on keeping your shot. That's when you're starting to ruin it for other people. You're starting to impact other people's experience, and that's when it becomes.
And I think that gets to the heart of this whole podcast. Is like with almost every rule we've talked about, the rule is: are you impeding on other people's enjoyment of this piece of pop culture? And if so, then cease. I think that you could sum up the whole that's the ultimate rule of thumb.
And you know what, that's the last one about pop culture, and I think that's a great place to end because especially in this time of coronavirus and COVID-19, both of them happen to come out at the same time. We should just be you just need to be considerate of other people and yourself. Take care of yourself.
Oh, Richard,
take care of others.
Are you putting a message in this podcast?
I am.
Wow. I don't care about the message. I just want a good podcast.
But yeah, I think that's the general. The rule of thumb at the end of the day is to just not be a dick to other people. And yeah, I think that's a really nice little moment to end on.
Richard, thank you so much. And I think that, first of all, thank you for listening. And if you liked this podcast, then please consider supporting us on all the different places: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. I'm thinking about writing down all the places so I can just run through them. You can email us at cultpopturemedia@gmail.com. Support us on patreon.com/cultpopture, or come and chat with us on our Discord, which there'll be a link to in the description. And like, I don't know how famous you guys think we are. Like, I don't know if we have like some listener in Missouri who thinks we're too hot shots to chat with them. Like, we are on the Discord all the time. We contribute Probably as much as anyone else does in that Discord. So if you really want to get to know us, that's a great place to do it. But Richard, you have kind of a set of rules adjacent to pop culture that I would love to end this episode on. And I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to let just you. You famously had this set of rules for pizza parties, which.
Yeah.
When do you have a pizza party? When you watch movies. So, Richard, what are your rules for pizza parties?
All right. So this is the this will take us home. So, a little bit of background. Just over a year ago, we had a big upgrade at work, and so that meant that a group of us had to work on Saturday night and just make sure because they changed everything over when nothing was happening, kind of thing. And so there was about 15 of us that came in, and they said, don't worry about dinner, like dinner will be provided for you, and then when it hit 8 o'clock or whatever, and they're like, all right, head upstairs, there's pizza, and I'm like, sweet. There was 3 supreme pizzas. Now they weren't even your normal supreme. They were like, they all had like at least one like divisive topping on them, so like whole fucking tomatoes or like pineapple or olives and mushrooms and things like that. So it's like these aren't these aren't anyone's favorite pizza. So and also just not at all enough to feed us. So I decided that I never wanted this to happen again. So a few weeks later, so as not to seem like a knee-jerk reaction, I posted this guide on Facebook, and maybe you can take this home and just pay it forward. So this is Buying Pizzas for a Group, the guide. So this guide is for if you're buying for a group of people that for whatever reason you can't, won't, or don't survey beforehand about what they would prefer. Obviously, that's the first port of call. If you're buying for a group of 5 mates, you go, okay, what should we have? But say you've got you're catering your kids' sport team and you can't, I don't know, whatever. So the formula for how many pizzas to get. Now, this is very important. If you take away one thing from this podcast, ignore, don't be a dick to everyone else. Ignore, wash your hands. It's this. If N is representing the amount of people you are buying for, the minimum amount of pizza you should buy is N divided by 2 plus 1. Okay. So, if you're buying for an odd number of people, you round up. For a group of 9 people, you should buy 6 pizzas. The only exception to this is if you have a group of either 3 or 4, it may be acceptable to only buy 2. However, this depends on the crowd. If you're catering for your kids' sport team and there's only 4 of them for some reason, but they've just come off, playing a game, you probably maybe want to get 3 pizzas for them if you know they're all hungry growing boys.
Or girls.
Now, or girls.
I don't care. I just want a good pizza.
Now, what about flavors? Obviously, you should always get a vegetarian option. I'm not trying to take that away from anyone. I'm not going to be a dick about it. But here's a helpful guide. If you're buying 2 pizzas, get 1 vegetarian and 1 meat lovers. Although if you're only buying 2, the group's probably small enough that you could just ask them. If you were buying 3, 1 vegetarian, 1 meat lovers, and then 1 other flavor, we'll come back to the other flavor in just a moment. 4 pizzas, 2 meat lovers, 1 vegetarian, 1 other flavor, and maybe one of those meat lovers you want to mix up, maybe do a barbecue swirl on one, don't do it on the other one. And if for 5 pizzas, it'll be 2 vegetarian, 2 meat lovers, 1 other. Make a judgment call, because it could be that they'd want... if you know for a fact there's only 1 vegetarian, get 1 vegetarian, then 3 meat lovers, mix up the barbecue swirl and whatnot, and then 1 other flavor. You can follow this pattern as far as it needs to go. I would say you want at least half to be meat lovers or pepperoni, and then a quarter to be vegetarian and a quarter to be the other flavors, which again we'll get to in a moment. Favoring, if you are buying an odd number of pizza, you favor the other flavor over vegetarian, unless you know it's a vegetarian heavy group. Now, specifics. By other flavor, I mean choose from Hawaiian, some kind of supreme, like those one meat, one vegetable kind of things, beef and onion, pepperoni, or like things like that. Apricot chicken and chicken cranberry are a safe bet. Depending on where you're ordering from, inquire ahead of time. Some places do these things really, really badly, and some it's like the best pizza on their menu. So your mileage may vary, but use your best judgment. Now, pepperoni, I mentioned earlier, is actually a very versatile pizza. It can be used in place of meat lovers. So if you want to save a couple of bucks, instead of meat lovers, get a pepperoni. Or you can also get meat lovers and pepperoni as your other flavor. Now, if you know you're catering for someone who is gluten-free, it's your responsibility to ask them their preferred flavor and get it on a gluten-free base. If you can't contact them, get a veggie and a meat lovers on a gluten-free base. The meat lovers will still get eaten by the group. If the numbers are getting up to 6, 7 plus pizzas, and you don't know anyone in the group, look at getting a vegan option if the place you're buying from does it, because some of them are actually quite good these days. And here's probably, that's not the last point, but it's potentially the most important one. Not everyone likes the same weird flavors that you do, so don't force them on people.
So true.
99 out of 100 pizza eaters will either eat meat lovers or vegetarian. They're happy to eat at least one of those two.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. It's the basis of this whole guide, is that 99% of people will happily eat either meat lovers or vegetarian.
Yeah.
So you should always assume at least one person is vegetarian in any given group. You don't have to assume anyone has any allergies like tomato or anything like that unless you're told otherwise. This whole guide as well is for Domino's, Pizza Hut, those kind of simple, 12-inch pizzas. If you come at me with your fucking Chicago deep dish or your giant New York pizzas, use your best judgment. This guide obviously isn't going to work. Last of all, this guide is for if you're buying for a group which either you don't know the preferences of or you don't know the people at all. If you're buying for a group which you know is vegetarian heavy, skew towards that. If you know, vice versa, you can use your best judgment. If it's not the first time you're buying for this group, or if you were catering Greenpeace or PETA, you shouldn't be catering PETA because they're an evil organization. But say if you're catering Greenpeace or the SPCA, you would probably skew towards vegetarian.
Yeah.
So that's that.
Nice.
A few people in the comments asked me about cheese pizzas. They're kind of just a boring option where if you maybe want to save money just to beef up your numbers a little bit, you could use that as the other flavor, or even the vegetarian option if you are pretty sure there aren't any vegetarians, but if there is one, they'll be able to just eat that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is
awesome.
My life's work.
Well done, Richard. Thank you so much. I'm going to go eat a pizza now, but you, the listener, can stay tuned for our post-credit scene, which will be coming up.
What kind of pizza are you going to get?
A cheese pizza with stuffed crust and extra cheese. Stay tuned for our post-credit scene coming up just about now.
Swirl.
After this music finishes. And yeah, see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye. Holy shit, what a twist.
Was not expecting the weekly podcast to end that way.
Oh my god. I can't wait to find out what happens next week.
Welcome, everybody, to the definitely not pre-recorded post-credits scene at the end of each of our episodes. This is a segment where we let anyone who donates more than $5 on our Patreon give us a topic to talk about in this little extra bit. So if you want to get in on that too, you can head on over to www.patreon.com/cultpopture and donate at least $5, and then you too can dictate what we talk about in this little segment. So, Richard, today's post-credit scene comes to us from Brianna McZant.
Oh, yeah.
who has actually appeared on the show before.
Oh, and I'm sure she'll have a nice, concise question for us to cover.
She actually asks quite a few questions, which isn't not allowed. But okay, well let's make this whole post-credit sequence like us just quick fire answering these questions as to not dwell on it for too long. Because that would send the wrong idea that anyone can do this, and we'll just give you more time.
And if we don't want this to balloon to be longer than the episode itself.
Yes. Okay. All right. So, Richard, you go, then I'll go. So, I'll read the question,
Okay.
you answer it, then I'll answer it. All right. What is the least offensive Disney sequel?
Let me think about this. Least offensive Disney sequel. I mean, are we talking theatrical releases?
I'm thinking straight to video releases. She doesn't specify.
Yeah,
that.
it has to be like your traditional Disney sequel. I'm gonna say Cinderella 3: A Twist in Time.
I'm gonna say The Lion King 2: Simba's Pride. Okay, Richard. Oh no, this is to me. AJ, can you please laugh for 15 seconds straight? Okay, can you count?
Let me pull up a timer or something.
All right.
Yeah, I'll just count. Okay, go. Time. Nice.
Cool. All right. What is the best movie to view on the first date?
I think it's whatever you discuss beforehand, a movie that, oh my god, I can't believe you haven't seen this, and then you show it to them, and then you can assess that person's taste. A good example of this is The Princess Bride.
That's a real good answer.
Because it's got something for everyone.
Yeah, totally. I'm going to just move on because I can't think of an answer. Because I haven't been on enough first dates. All right.
Too busy on those second dates, eh, boy?
Would you rather create only... Oh, I can't fucking read the question. Would you rather create only one great movie in your life or dozens of subpar movies?
These are actually like the same for me. I don't mind. So I presume if I create only one great movie, I only create one movie. Actually, I'm going to go movie because then I can still work in TV and music videos and stuff, and still be respected.
Yeah, I'm going to go one movie, so I can be remembered. Yeah. If you had to watch one movie for a year, what would it be?
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future. I'm going to go About a Boy. That's been on my mind lately. What is the funniest movie?
They Came Together or Walk Hard. Those are and Popstar, Never Stop, Never Stopping. Those are the three that appeal most to my sense of humor.
Nice. I'm going to go Big Trouble, which is a movie I've frequently recommended, mainly on the Patreon show. It's a Tim Allen movie, and I really love it. It's from 2002. It's called Big Trouble. Please suggest we watch it. I really want to watch it. It's like, it's a movie that uses the same formula as Arrested Development.
All right. Keep
What genre of movie is your favorite?
I mean, whatever. I don't care. I don't really... I don't like fantasy, I can tell you that. That's the only genre that I put any kind of above or below everything else on. Like, everything else has good films and bad films, but...
I'm going to go cabaret is the best genre of movie.
Cabaret?
Do you think it's possible to adapt a full-length novel into a film well? Yes.
Yeah, I do.
Sure.
It's... Yeah, and like,
there's
always going to be stuff that people are like, oh my god, they didn't include my favorite bit because everyone reads a book and different things stay with them. I don't think you can adapt it page for page and include every single thing, but I think there are many fantastic adaptations of books into movies, and it's about capturing the essence rather than every single thing that happens in it.
Nice. And the last two questions go hand in hand, and I don't think we should answer either of them because it gives the patrons too much power. What franchise are you least looking forward to covering, and what franchise are you most looking forward to covering? I'm not telling. That's our little secret. I'm not going to tell people who can tell me what movies to watch, what the ones I don't want to watch are.
Yeah, there is a franchise I borderline will refuse to cover. And it might just be that I'm not on that episode. And And I've made it clear in the past what my franchise I'm most looking forward to is, and even recently on the Discord, and you can do that your own research and find out the answer to that.